Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Did That Age Well? Today, oh my gosh, we are going to have a ragtag, crazy, jazzy time with my new friend Calvin. Welcome.
Hello, I'm very excited to be here. I absolutely love talking movies and I love talking about whether or not they aged well. So I think this is a match made in heaven.
I think it's a match made in heaven. I'm so excited that you're here. What do you have going on creatively? Any shows that you want to promote, anything that you're doing that you want the people to know about?
So I am a stand-up comic local to Denver. I try and get booked wherever people will have me. So that just kind of, it depends. Yeah. I'm trying to think. In a couple weeks, I'll be doing, oh my gosh, I know I have a show in a couple weeks. Wow, I have one singular show. I'm just booked in Denver a lot. Check out my Instagram. I post all my shows as I get them there. Calvin Reid, REID. _. I'm also an acting teacher. I'm teaching an acting class at Rise Comedy, which is really
that's
fun.
Awesome. What kind of acting class is it? Just like general?
It's super beginner.
Cool.
Super beginner. So I like my entire background is in theater. Like I do comedy now, but like my degree's in theater. That's like my first love. I guess was acting technically. Yeah. Now it's like comedy, which deals with acting, but I say acting really was like my first love, and so it's been really fun to kind of get back into that.
So fun.
It's weird because it's like like people are like my students are like telling me their goals. I'm like, wait, I know how I can like help you with that in an acting perspective, and like that's really cool. And so I'm having a really really fun time with that, and it's very new.
Fun. Oh, cool! I love that. So if somebody wants to like sign up for your class, is there like a link that they can go to or something?
Yes, it should just be at risecomedy.com.
Okay. Cool.
Super. Yeah, they've got a really easy to use website.
Awesome.
The class is full for right now, but I think we're going to start up again soon. So we'll be able to just have people sign up then and there.
Oh my gosh, great. So you are not only a theater kid, a theater man, but also a musical man? Are you a musical guy?
Yes, no, I don't know. Do theater men exist? We're all just kids.
We are all kids.
We're talking about the things that we talk about. I'm like, this is just not. I'm a theater kid through and through. Yeah. I like musical man though. I'm a musical man. Yeah. I'm a theater kid.
He is the music man. Honestly, Liza Minnelli still a theater kid. Honestly, everyone who is old and in theater. Still a theater kid.
Because we act childish. Because we're insufferable.
Cynthia children
Revo just came out as getting bullied this week. Like we're insufferable. I love what we bring to the world, but sometimes I'm like, damn, we really suck.
Yeah, it's like, why are you like that? You know?
It's unfortunate, but it's also like my home.
Of course.
It's like one of those things where it's like no one can talk. Like I will talk shit on theater and theater people all day, every day. But the second like someone who's not involved will talk shit, I'm like, so who are you?
Who are you to say that?
It's like, this is my family. You can't talk. I can talk shit on them, but you can't.
Exactly.
Kind of thing.
Yes. 100%.
Are you a big theater kid?
I was a theater kid when I was a kid. Okay. I still really, I feel totally at home on a stage. I feel totally at home on a mic. But I'm not doing like, you know what I mean?
Like performance stuff, yeah.
Not doing performance.
You're good at like the public speaking side of things.
I would say so, yeah.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. Anyone who has opinions to the contrary, drop them in the comments below.
For me, if you have opinions to the contrary, don't drop them below. Keep them to yourself because I don't want to know. Because I'll think about it too much anyways.
And then he'll come out as having being bullied.
Yeah. And then I'll talk about being bullied. Much like the great theater actors of our generation. Wait, so did you do like speech and debate in high school or anything like that?
Yeah, I did. Yep. And I did musical theater and I did, all of that stuff. I was a choral singer. I minored in music when I was in college.
Wait, what vocal part do you sing?
I sing mezzo soprano.
Cool. Nice.
What about you? What do you sing?
This is funny. I was labeled as a bass.
Yeah.
In my high school, which for the people listening, yes, that's for the people listening with ears that are hearing my voice. Yes, I was put as a bass.
Yes.
So now I do have like a decent low range, but I like couldn't hit like the super low notes that was needed. So my voice would get really quiet. And I'm like, I feel like I'm kind of a tenor. I have a whole thing where I am obsessed with my old choir teacher, my high school choir teacher. Love that man. Truly love him. I do think I was like even amazing teachers will make like a couple of mistakes, right?
Of course.
He taught thousands of choral students.
Right.
he's not going to get all thousands of students placement correct. I do think I was like maybe one of his 5 mistakes of him putting me as a bass when I should have been a tenor.
Of course.
So I'm like, I guess I'm a baritone with
Right.
all of that in mind.
Yeah. And the thing is, when you get assigned your part in choir, like when we're all, you know, in middle school or in high school or whatever, it becomes like a part of your identity.
Yes, it does.
When I went to college and I went from being an alto to a soprano, I said, this, I have to like change everything.
No, like
about myself.
And it's so odd because like my teacher didn't do anything with that personality. Like we all just did it ourselves. Like as students, we were all just like, but I'm going to do, like, we all just came up with our own personalities and stuff. Yeah. And I had a tenor personality and a tenor speaking voice in a bass mold. And so what does that create?
What does that mean?
And so now I love the fact that I can like sing low notes and that makes me feel cool. But then I'd be singing high notes. I'm like, damn, I feel like this would have been easier for me like long term. But like how is anybody supposed to know? And so
truly
still all the absolute love and nothing for my high school choir teacher.
Yes, a friend of the pod.
Literally friend of the pod. You don't like, if you listen, D, he said I could call him D in high school. And I was like, literally shut up.
Oh my God.
He retired this year and I like went to his retirement thing.
Happy retirement, D.
Yes, no, he's literally such a baddie, but he had like over 250 students come sing, like, because he had his niece is also a choir teacher, just like in a different school, and she just like made a bunch of things for alumni.
That is so cool.
She invited like over 500, over 200 came. People flew across the country to like say goodbye to him.
So amazing.
No, it's because he's like that good of a teacher. Like he's like, I have really done a lot of reflection on my past teachers, and some of them I thought I liked, I really fucking hate, aka my theater teacher. God, she sucked.
Enemy of the pod.
Yes. Bitch. She got mad at me for the movie we're talking about. I taught the choreography for it to a bunch of 14-year-olds and she got mad at me for it.
Wow.
Crazy.
Rude.
Fuck her. But
her.
So I've done a lot of reflection and I still adore that man. Fuck her. But there are other teachers I'm like, odd. And so many of them are retiring now, which does make sense. My dad was a teacher. He just retired. Like it happens, but it's weird. Some
weird.
died.
Oh my God.
But they were really good. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like you're dead.
Can I tell you something bizarre?
Of
okay,
course.
so when I was a freshman or sophomore in college, I had this private voice teacher named Marge. And Marge was a tyrant. Marge was like, I've probably told this story on the podcast before, but you know, like J.K. Simmons' character in Whiplash?
No.
She was kind of like that.
God.
She was really intense. She was very skilled, very intense. And of course, I would talk shit about her all the time. I'd be like, oh, I'm working on so many different pieces for Marge and they're all so hard. And she's like, no, you are a soprano. And I'm like, no, I'm not. You know, all of that back and forth.
Yes.
And then there was one day where her husband started to show up and like help out by like playing the piano and like kind of helping her teach, but they would like bicker at each other sometimes. And so then I was like talking shit all the time about like, oh, Marge's husband is here, blah, blah, blah. Then one day we go into studio, which is once a week, all of the students who were working with Marge would come together and we would all judge each other. And every week someone cried. And
oh my gosh.
And one day Marge walks in and there's like a cake. She brought a cake and we're all like, what's going on? At the end of class, she says, I have pancreatic cancer. I have 3 months to live, but I didn't want this to be sad when I told you. So we're going to have cake. And so then everyone's just like, we like put on some music and then everyone's just like crying and eating cake. And she stayed, like the reason that her husband was there was because like she was dying and she wanted to teach students up until her last day. And so she was really involved in the local opera. Mm-hmm. And so the opera house had this like tribute concert for her and a bunch of her former students came out and it was so weird because it was like a goodbye tour, but she was still alive, which like honestly is kind of cool because most people like they don't get to see their whole tribute show when they're still alive.
Yeah.
But it was really fucking weird being like, okay, bye Marge, you know? And then
did she die 3 months later?
She died on Christmas Day. We got an email from the president of the university that said Marge passed away on Christmas Day.
Oh my
Can you believe that?
When did she get? That's like so. A lot went down. Like
There was so
like that was. She goes. I feel like I've said the story on the pod before. Literally drops a bomb. Wow.
I probably told pieces of it, but I don't know if I've told it like beginning, middle, and end.
Did you cry?
I think that
You go. She's like J.K. Simmons, like literally an abusive teacher from Rent, but she like did die. Like,
but she like did die, and she was like she was really talented, and like
she sounds like it. Yeah.
All of her students were really talented. I mean, other than me, I was like good enough, but that's because I didn't like work as hard as many other people did.
I was also like the least talented, so I also took private voice lessons. All of my teachers are still alive to my knowledge, even if it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
No, sorry. I've had 4 voice teachers and 2 of them were really good. 2 of them were really good. 3 were fine. 1 sucked.
Yeah. But you can't even put that out into the universe, because if one of them dies in the near future, you're going to be like, oh my God, it's my fault.
No, it's literally, I'm going to feel so bad.
Okay.
No, wait, who did I have? Carrie and Steven and Amy and Ted. Yeah, so I had 4.
Mm-hmm.
And my first one, she said I was tone deaf. Yeah, I was like literally
audacity.
14. No, literally, I love that I can talk about this with someone, because comedy people never get the strife of vocal lessons. Like the actual shit you have to go through to fucking do this. So my first one said I was tone deaf and sent me to my second guy.
Okay.
My second guy was great, but
was he like a remedial voice teacher?
No, he was just a man. She was like, maybe you'll do better with a guy. Like maybe be a better teacher. I don't know.
A music man, you might say.
A music man. And he was good. He was good. He was just a little quiet. And I was so focused. Like I didn't get into singing to be a choral singer. I did it for musical theater. Like every single thing I did in high school was so that I could become a better actor.
Right. You didn't do it for, you did it for,
Yes. No, like literally for that. For the storytelling aspect of it. That's why I joined choir. So, which is funny that I like my choir teacher, but I don't like my theater teacher, because I did everything to impress her, and he's the one I ended up being like obsessed with. But so I took. And so then I had a second one, and I went for him for a while, but he was really far away, and we had like a snowstorm, like a really bad snowstorm, and it took me and my mom 3 hours to get home. And we were like, that is like, he doesn't live in the mountains. And I'm like from Colorado. So it was a whole thing that we wouldn't go back, because it was just, if we ever have snow like that again, that was just hell for the 2 of us.
Yeah.
So then I went to my third voice teacher. She was my favorite. Okay. Stunning Amy Champion. If you want to get voice lessons, she's literally the best. She's a sweetheart. I'm obsessed with her. And then my fourth one, is kind of like, you were kind of like Marge, where he was a very talented individual. He was a little harsh. He told me one of my last lessons that the furthest I could get as a singer would be the ensemble of community productions, not even regional. And I was like, so I'm paying you hundreds of dollars a month for you to insult me?
God.
No, he literally said that. And he said it with full confidence, as if that was something I needed to hear.
He read you to filth.
Yes, he did, fucking prick.
Wow.
But I also found out, so fun fact, God, pardon me, I just wants to like say his name. So he was a big voice teacher. Like he taught a shit ton of people. My college would send students to him. Like that's how I found him, was because like my college students were like, oh, Calvin, he's great, go to him. So all of that would happen. Well, he divorces his wife. And because of his area, he also taught a lot of high schoolers. Okay. And a lot of high schoolers that were really talented would go to my college. Okay. Because my college was just like a good theater school. And when he started the divorce with his wife, he reached out to a shit ton of former students. Like I'm talking like 10 or 20. God, what? And all of the really pretty ones, and goes, hey, me and my wife are no longer together. I always thought you were really attractive. Could I like buy you a drink? Some of these people were students he did not have. He only had when they were high schoolers. He never had them as college students. He never had them as adults, but he reached out to them as an adult.
To say, I always thought you were attractive.
Yep. And he did that to like 10 plus students.
Oh my God.
And because I'm friends with all the girls, like 5 of them were girls I'm friends with, and all 5 were like, we got this thing. And then some posted on social media, and then the girls were responding being like, he said the same thing to me. So he got kind of dropped. God. And he's a prick. And he was like mean to me.
Cancel
Ted Reid. Sorry, don't flirt with girls.
Sorry, yeah,
don't flirt with students.
It's his fault for getting canceled.
Yeah, like don't make girls uncomfortable. Yeah. How about that? Maybe don't make girls uncomfortable. But he was like decent enough at like the actual voice teaching stuff. I just feel like, don't tell students who are paying you hundreds of dollars a month that like the furthest they could get is community theater,
not even regional, and not even just community theater, in the ensemble.
Ensemble.
Listen, babe, no small parts, but still.
Yeah, and ensemble's the most fun. Like, a true theater kid knows that ensemble is actually the best part because you get
for sure.
all of the fun of being in a show without any of the pressure of being a lead. So it's like truly the prime. It's the creme de la creme. But I was fine with the idea of being ensemble. I was just like, ouch. Like, I'm like a really good performer. Do I sing anymore? No.
No.
No. Have I gotten significantly farther as a performer when my singing voice is not at all involved? Yes.
Yeah.
But I hate that happened to be a correct statement. But it's just like, I feel like I actually had potential to be a really good singer.
Yeah.
But and I wish I saw my third voice teacher. I wish I just saw her the whole time because she's like one of the few who actually saw potential in me.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why I think I like my acting teaching so much is because I don't ever want to tell someone they have nothing. They have no potential. Because it's like, prove me wrong. Like, truly, I might not see much, but I don't ever want to tell someone that.
Right.
And I do for comedy because I'm a prick. But I have for comedy been like, yeah, that person's not funny. But like, if they prove me wrong, I'll gladly say I'm wrong because I know what it's like to have that feeling.
Yeah.
And now I have no confidence. Like, it's something that I've thought about going back into voice lessons just to try and get confidence with that because I now just have no confidence with my singing.
Same.
Because they they kind of like make it seem like you're the worst. And I'm like, I talk to normal people, and the entire 15-minute conversation we just had, they would not have known a single word we just said.
No.
So we obviously know what we're talking about.
Right.
Like, we just need the confidence to like get there.
It's so true. Have you ever told a comic or a aspiring comic to their face that they're not funny?
No. I would never do that. I don't ever want to. I've talked behind their back.
Of course. Yeah.
I've been like,
has anyone been like, hey, do you think I'm funny?
No, I've never done that.
Yeah.
Because some people in the Denver comedy scene give really horrible notes. Like, they give they're mean, they're not helpful, they're just bad notes. And I have been given so many bad notes in my life. Like, so, like, being in theater, I mean, and being in music too, you just get bad notes that aren't helpful, that do not help you in your craft at all, that make me cry, that make me feel like shit about myself. I don't want to do that to somebody. I really don't. So my goal is to never do that. Obviously, there are going to be people that like say shit that's like too far. And I've like told people like that punchline isn't funny, but I try to say like, you're funnier than the punchline you just said.
Of course.
That's what I try and say to like really just because I know that feeling and it's a really shitty feeling. I've probably given bad notes on my day because everybody does.
Everyone's given bad notes. I mean, but, like you said, even your teacher who had thousands of students probably made a few mistakes along
and
the
I'm
way.
positive I was one of them. And I'm still like, I take a bullet for that man.
Oh my God, of course.
Like all of my friends, we all still like him. Like he was overwhelmed with over 200 former students at his final concert, and I still was like, I'm gonna talk to you. I'm like, I'm gonna wait in line.
Get out of the way, everybody.
I was one of your mistakes, and I still adore you. So
absolutely.
You're right. Like it's kind of the intention I think matters a lot. But I've been given so many bad notes that the last thing I ever want to do is just give something so unhelpful and so hurtful for no reason.
Of course. Yeah. There's nothing to gain from it than to feel better than someone for 2 seconds and then immediately after be like, what was that for?
Yeah, and then if they prove me wrong, congratulations, my note was null. Or I guess my note was great, but it hurt. And it's like, I am down for the idea of being proven wrong because I love that. Because I feel like people who have given me poor notes, I'm like, well, look at me now, fucker.
Yeah.
So I feel like I do also like the idea of it's like, if I say something that's wrong, because there are plenty of people I don't think are funny. If you prove me wrong, like, I'll say it. I have done that before where people I never thought were funny, I see them like crush a set. And I'm like, oh, shit.
Like, you're funny.
Like, you kind of ate that, and I wasn't expecting you to. I'm wrong. I won't say it to their face.
Of course.
But I will be wrong.
Because no one wants to hear, wow, I really underestimated you, and you are actually funny.
I've also been given that note before, and I'm like, okay. That note's not the worst. I mean, no, because I'm wondering, for music, did they ever come for your appearance? Because in theater, they would all the time.
I mean, not really. I feel like it was more... it was more about like, you know, how you like position your body to have the most impact on your voice. But like, it wasn't about like criticizing my physical appearance.
Okay.
At least not in music.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
I didn't get as much as like nearly like any of my I've had friends be told like literally like the absolute worst things you can think of when it comes to physical appearance notes. I've been given some physical appearance notes, not a lot. Thank God, because my self-esteem could not handle it.
No way. And of course, look at you, gorge.
It's not,
what could they possibly say?
It was before I glue up, so to their defense, I was not as pretty as I am now. But no, I mean, some people, I'd have friends that were literally told like, oh yeah, in high school, I was told by the fucking theater teacher, I was told I was too funny looking to get a callback for a show.
What?
Yeah, she was like, Calvin.
She said that to a child.
She literally said that to a 16-year-old that asked for audition feedback.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What a cunt. I'm sorry.
No, she was horrible. She's horrible.
Enemy of the pod.
She's an enemy of the pod.
Yeah. Sorry.
You don't listen anyways. She said she wanted to come to one of my comedy shows because she was at my... So I specifically went because my choir teacher and my theater teacher retired in the same year.
Okay.
And like, as much as my theater teacher sucked, to the defense, we had a really strong performing arts department kind of because of them.
Yeah.
Because she created a really unhealthy environment of competition, which meant we all tried to be
which
really
meant
good.
you were all trying to be the best.
Which meant we all tried to be really talented all the time.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So when we found out that they were both retiring, a lot of people were like, fuck, like, good luck to the program, because like our choir teacher was like world renowned. Like we really just had good stuff. And she had a final thing that I purposely didn't go to. I was in town at my parents' house, which is still 10 minutes from my high school, that night. I could have gone, chose not to. For my choir teacher's thing, I wasn't at my parents' house. I had to go out of my way to do it.
Oh yeah, of course.
Like I had a horrible week leading up to that thing, and I still went. And I didn't want to see her there. I saw her there, avoided her like the plague. She hugged me once and then went to go talk to the student she liked more. And I was like, sounds about right. And then she texted me later being like, sorry, we couldn't talk. And I'm like, whatever. And she said she wanted to come to one of my comedy shows. And I'm like, I don't want you to because you were mean to me.
And she's going to say something mean to you.
Yeah. I was like, you liked me because I put in so much work. You liked me because of my work ethic, which is like, but I was never your favorite. You liked the kids that were way less queer presenting. I look back and like majority of my classes come out, but we had a really Mormon department.
Interesting.
So we only had like, she was Mormon. And so that kind of created like a lot of, and like Mormons who were horrible to girls, but you know, whatever, they would get the leads. And it created like this thing of like, if you're gay, you're not going to get stuff.
Wow.
I don't think she did. I don't think anyone did it intentionally, but that doesn't change the fact that's for sure what happened.
Of course.
Because all of the people from my class that were less queer presenting or less like queer, obviously, they would get all the leads and stuff. And then the people like me who were way more queer presenting, who were just as talented, like the world would tell us we were just as good, wouldn't get anything because we could hide it less. And so she would specifically like and she would pick shows and that kind of stuff to really help bolster those students. And then the students who were just like more flamboyant and stuff wouldn't ever get anything. And I'm like, wow, bitch, you wonder why no one came to your retirement stuff, because you created this type of environment.
No, that's the thing. People who are well liked get further. I'm sorry. You got to be likable. You got to be nice to people.
And it's not even like, you know, cause she was like perfectly charismatic. It's also like, you also have to like genuinely, like there has to be like a level of care for education that like students will see the level of care that you have for them when they reflect back. Cause everybody does this. Everybody always reflects back on their past experience. There are teachers where I'm like, you know what? You were not perfect. You had a lot of shithead moments, but I felt your care and your compassion for teaching and how much you cared about your craft and all that stuff. I remember that so much that I'm going to give you benefit of the doubt to you're a human being. You're allowed to make mistakes. Whereas her, I'm like, yeah, you made mistakes, but I'm starting to wonder what your intentions were. Why would you create theater is meant to be where queer kids can be themselves. Why did we only have one out queer kid?
Whoa.
In a high school, in a really gay high school, we're now almost all of us, like since we all graduated, I would say 65% of us have come out.
Of course. Yeah.
Bitch. Anyways, yeah.
Wow. Hate her. Let's talk about Chicago.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Let's talk about Chicago.
Me too. Okay, speaking of...
the whole theater kid thing.
Speaking of theater kids, no, but seriously, speaking of like, you know, vocal talent, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Queen Latifah, amazing.
Yes.
What is Richard Gere doing?
In this show,
this movie?
You know, because sometimes I wonder, and I've thought about this before, because I said I love this movie so much. It is my favorite musical movie. It's my favorite musical.
It's mine too.
Because you have good taste. That's
Obviously,
why.
You too.
No, like literally though, it's my favorite movie musical. It's my favorite musical period.
Yeah.
I would watch this show. I discovered this movie when I was 13 and I watched it. I would go to school and come home every single day for like 4 months and watch the movie. Like I would go to my basement. The movie was already in the DVD player because what else would it have gone?
Where else would it go?
I would literally listen and sing. And my dad one day was like, after like the third month was like, you should stop because you'll get sick of this movie and you'll never want to watch it again. So I slowed down. And I slowed down until the Diamond Blu-ray edition came out. Then I bought that. So I own both the DVD and the Blu-ray Diamond edition, which comes with the DVD. So I own 3 different copies of this movie. I watched it a whole bunch once the Blu-ray came out. And now I bring the Blu-ray with me every house I've lived in. I have the Blu-ray because it's just like that big of a deal. But I, even as a teenager, was like, Richard Gere's voice feels like it doesn't fit for him.
It absolutely does not. And while I think that he is a talented actor, while I think that he is well cast for a role of like a smarmy lawyer.
Like the part fits him very well.
The part fits him. The man, when you put him against the rest of the cast, especially Catherine Zeta-Jones and Queen Latifah, it's like, what are we doing here?
No, I agree
What
with
are
you.
you doing here?
Because for this movie, Renee Zellweger, who plays Roxy Hart, like the lead role, she didn't know how to sing before this movie.
Yeah.
Which is insane because then she also won an Oscar like 3 years ago for playing Judy Garland in Judy. And her voice, like, and I've always liked her. She was one of my favorites of this movie. So I know that they did vocal work with these actors because they were able to do it with her. And it's not like he ever even sounded bad. He didn't have like a Russell Crowe and Les Mis moment where he just sounded so much worse than everybody else. Like it was like it was like people hated Javert for the wrong reasons. They hated him for his voice and not for the fact that his character sucked. Like it was I think back on that movie and I'm like, wow, everybody else in terms of vocal talent was like kind of like the top tier of what you can get for vocal talent, and then Russell Crowe's just a part of it too. It wasn't that bad.
It was not that bad.
But it was definitely like, you're kind of the weakest link here because all of his best numbers were only really good numbers because of all the ensemble dancers.
Of course. And the ensemble singers. You know, like I felt like, you know, what's the song where it's like, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes,
yes, so yes. We both reach for the gun.
Yeah, we both reach for the gun. That song is fun because of the chorus, not because of Richard Gere.
So here's my opinion with musicals that I think you're about to agree on. And this is like I'd like to think this is not a hot take, but sometimes I'm scared it is.
But if it is a hot take, it's brought to you by Racha Sriracha.
Yes.
A friend of the pod.
A friend of the pod. Yes, we support and we love.
Yes.
I do not think a musical can be good if the ensemble is not amazing.
Oh my God, of course.
Like I have seen so many shows where the leads are phenomenal, but the ensemble sucks. I unfortunately can't get locked with the show.
100%.
I've seen shows where the leads aren't good, but the ensemble's great, and I still have something to look forward to.
Absolutely.
It's weird to me. You can have like the ensemble, which is why there needs to be a best ensemble category at the Tonys.
And the fact that there isn't
shows that the Tonys can only mean so much. It shows that performance show their lack of respect towards the ensemble tells me that they don't know what they're talking about as much as they think they do.
They literally like don't know.
Because an ensemble literally makes or breaks a show. The amount of shows I've seen where I'm like, this ensemble kind of carried, and it's because they are what creates the world.
Yes.
Like the leads sing the songs and have to do their own thing too.
Yeah.
But ensemble is what gives the show energy. They're what gives the show like they're the thing that makes a musical like different.
Yeah.
Like plays don't have ensembles like this for a reason. Like sure, some plays do, but like So that's always been my opinion is if I do not like the ensemble of a show, I'm gonna have a really hard time liking the show. If I like the ensemble of the show, I'm gonna have a hard time hating it.
I 100% agree. I think that it is so much more important to have, and I think this might be a hot take. I think it's so much more important to have a strong A+ ensemble than it is to have an A+ lead. I think that if you have a B+ or A- lead and an A+ ensemble, you're gonna be fine. That's still an A+ show.
Whereas if you have a C ensemble and A+ leads, every single group number, those are the numbers people remember leaving. They might remember the ballad. They'll maybe remember one or two of them, but that's like one lead. That's not like it's very much like the ensemble will always save your show.
Yep.
I've been not ensemble shows before. I've been ensemble. The ensemble's just way more fun.
It is. It's all about the cast party.
It really is. And that's where you like create all of the best relationships and you don't have the pressure. Not having the pressure of like having to always hit your notes or, I guess you have to do that as ensemble, but to like always hit like your money note or to always have like the realizations that you have to make. Whereas ensemble, it's like you just have to like sell the show. You just have to have fun.
Yeah.
Hello. Oh, no. Like that's so bad. Yeah. I'm trying to think. What's your favorite number in Chicago?
Such a good question. I think He Had It Coming.
Cell Block Tango.
The Cell Block Tango. The Cell Block Tango is, I think, my favorite. But you know what? It's a tie between that and Mama's solo.
Yes.
Mama's good to you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When You're Good to Mama.
When You're Good to Mama.
Yes.
Yeah. The thing is, I don't know the names of any of these songs.
And I know all of them. So you're good.
So we're good. We're covered. And that is because I have sadly not seen the stage production of Chicago.
Okay, I've seen both.
Yeah.
I've seen, like I said, I really wanted, like, for like a birthday one year, Chicago came when it was on tour, like the millions of times it's been. So I've seen stage production, I've seen movie, I've seen kind of it all, and I've seen Mama, like, And You're Good to Mama. I prefer the movie version. The stage production I saw, they had an older Mama Morton. Beautiful voice. She didn't move during her song.
Oh, and
I feel like the song kind of calls for movement.
It absolutely does. And I will say, I remember where I was when I saw Queen Latifah pull that scarf out of her cleavage.
How bisexual are you?
I would say, like 50-50.
I was about to say, you can't say that and not be queer.
But you can't say, here's the thing about like how bisexual are you? It's like, well, if I'm a lot bisexual, that means what? Like an even 50-50? If I say I'm not that bisexual, what does that mean? More gay, more straight?
I totally get what you mean now. Yeah. That's a thinker. I didn't mean the question like that, but I totally get
No, totally. That's why it kind of was a pause, because I'm like, how do I answer this?
Yeah. But no, I was just saying, because I know exactly what scene you're talking about. I remember where I was when I first saw her pull the red shit out of her boobs too.
Oh my God. And the thing is, one thing that I think ages really well about the casting choice for Queen Latifah as Mama is that at this time in the early 2000s, I think like a movie musical was one of the only places where you could have a thick black woman as like the sexiest character in the show. Because frankly, she's like this. She gives like the most.
No, and you're so right
in this movie.
I didn't even think about it like that. Wow.
Like Velma, obviously, like she is like very sexy.
It's different,
but it's different because Matron Mama Morton is like, she is sex, you know?
And in the stage production, and that's probably why I didn't like the Mama as much. Her voice was great. She carried it well. She was also a thick black woman. Her voice, just all the good stuff.
Yeah.
She didn't even walk around, like she stood there for the whole time. And it's like, if you're casting an older Mama who can't do the dancing like Queen Latifah can, totally fine.
Yeah.
She still needs to move around, because I feel like there's a level of sex appeal that I saw in Queen Latifah's interpretation of that character that I now just associate.
Of course.
And I now think of Mama Morton as like one of those sexiest characters.
Yeah.
But that didn't come across when in the stage production I saw, and I think that's maybe why the character didn't sit as well for me, because I think all of those characters have a lot more to do with sex than like people would maybe make it out, because the movie the whole thing is a deep satire. Did you ever see Cabaret?
Yes.
Okay, I love Cabaret too.
Me too.
It's like my second favorite.
Yeah.
And that one, I feel like when the productions really lean into the sex aspect of it, it really lets you lean into how horrible the Nazi of it all is too. Like because I've seen more stage productions of Cabaret than I have of Chicago.
Yeah.
And all the ones that lean more into sex are more effective by the end.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing, but I do feel like the Chicago productions are too. In the stage production I saw, like the Velma and Roxy didn't have short hair, and I remember being like, the fuck? I still absolutely loved it. I cried. Sure. It was a great show. But there's so many things with the movie that just like really, and one of them is Queen Latifah just as Mama Morton. God, when I watched it every single day for 3 months, the next year after I got sick of it, or when I didn't get sick of it, me and my friends were watching it because they became obsessed with it. I would have my 2 girlfriends at the time come. We would literally act out the songs.
Aww.
So we had act out for Mama Morton because her boobs were so big. We used to be like, Mama, can I have some more? Because we were talking about her boobs being so big, like us 14-year-olds. And then me and a friend, there are pictures on my phone of us doing the we both reached for the gun. Oh there are literal pictures of me being the puppet, or of me holding my friend like she's the puppet, and us like doing the song in my basement because of how much like this movie impacted like my friend group too.
That is iconic. You were an influence, a powerful one,
on this movie's entire staying power. Yeah.
Yes. And that's why we're even still talking about it today.
Is because of what I did as a 14-year-old in my parents' basement.
Yep. God bless.
God, that sounds weird.
Just what the gay boys are doing in their basement at 14.
My parents were scared I was making out with those girls. No.
LOL.
I was touching their back and doing what Richard Gere did to Renee Zellweger. And I would do that as they sang Renee Zellweger's part because I knew what we were doing.
Of course.
That they were scared about that. That's what I was doing.
He's a natural acting teacher. Okay, I do want to say
yes.
Okay, there's a couple of things that I want to say. But first is I want to talk a little bit about the history of this movie.
Let's do
it. Because, okay, well, first of all, I think I need to come clean and say I don't usually like movie musicals.
Okay.
This one is a strong exception and is my favorite movie musical. It's my favorite musical overall. I just think that the way that they cut from the like real world to the fantasy world of performance.
They did a phenomenal job.
They did a phenomenal job. And that I think is part of why I like it, is because like we're still grounded in this like reality, but then the musical part is like the fantasy. It's like what's going on in their head, which, okay, I have a conspiracy theory. This is my tinfoil hat moment, and I wonder if other people have this. So throw in the comments if you do. I think that the final performance of Velma and Roxy is not real. I think it's a fantasy. I think that it's Roxy fantasizing it. I don't think that it actually happens.
I can so see that perspective. Does it break my heart? Yes.
Yes.
I can see that perspective, and for my own mental health purposes at this time, I cannot agree with it.
Absolutely. And this is our first. And this
like,
is our
Taylor,
first.
we can't.
And you know what? We couldn't just agree on everything on this podcast because we had to.
Like, I don't have therapy coming up quick enough for me to ever, like, I'm being completely honest. Like, you saying that did something in my psyche to be like.
I know, I've broken you.
No, because, like, I see that, though. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
But, like, I hate that I'm forgetting the director of this show because he's, like, a huge movie director.
Oh, yeah, his name is
It's not Kenny Ortega. He directed High School Musical too.
No.
Another very important musical movie, but
of course. Yeah, shit. What's
it's
his
Rob
name?
something.
Hold on.
I'm gonna go crazy, but
his name is Rob Marshall.
Rob Marshall. There
and then
we go.
the screenplay is by Bill Condon. The music is by John Kander and Fred Ebb. Originally,
yes, yeah. So Fred Ebb, and then okay.
Yeah.
So Rob Marshall has directed multiple movie musicals. To my knowledge, he's a phenomenal director.
Yeah.
And this is something where it's like, I love the movie musical Les Mis. When people say they hate it, I have to understand why.
Sure.
Because it's all of the aspects of the musical with no intermission. It's a heavy musical that's all sung, that has no intermission. Like, I get why people don't like it. I still love it.
For sure.
Where, like, this movie, they do a good job. I still watch the parts that they cut because I'm such a nerd for this show. But they do a good job of getting the entire point across of the stage musical. They do a good job of translating the themes, translating the message in a more movie digestible format. So it's less than 2 hours long, while getting all of, like, the whole point of, like, the fantasizing and the wanting to be on stage and the satire of it all, and the two, like, they do such, like, Rob Marshall does such a good job of creating that world that not all movie directors do. Sometimes I think movie directors know that the theater kids are going to like it, and that's it. Where I think Rob Marshall was like, I'm going to get people who don't like movie musicals to like this movie, and I think he did succeed.
And that's why it won a fucking Academy Award.
It's the last movie musical. It's the no movie musical since has won Best Picture.
Do you think that Wicked will be a contender for?
I would love for it to be. I really, really would. I just struggle because the movies like this, like Into the Woods, had just about this high of a marketing treatment, and I really enjoyed the Into the Woods movie, but it fell for the same trap Les Mis did, where they put. The Into the Woods is such an intense. I mean, so much is going on in that show.
Oh yeah,
so much.
It's batshit crazy,
and it's a really good show. But watching it as a movie is like depressing.
Yeah,
it's sad. Like it's a very different look as a movie. And I still like the movie. I've watched the movie multiple times. I still thoroughly enjoy it. But I am hoping Wicked doesn't have that treatment. I'm hoping he kind of does more of a Rob Marshall vibe with it.
Yeah.
But I'm probably going to enjoy it either way. That is my one fear. So if he's able to figure that out. And somehow get the same point across while making it more digestible as a movie. Apparently, they're doing 2 parts to make it more accurate to the book as well.
Oh, okay.
If they're able to kind of work with all of this, then I'm set. I'm open. I'm excited, but I do have a fear that it's going to fall into the trap a lot of movie musicals do.
I think so because, all right, this might be our second argument.
Fuck. Okay.
I think that theater kids have ruined Wicked. I don't like Wicked because because I think that everybody singing it is annoying as fuck.
Yeah, so this is
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so that's a hot take that I
and that's brought to you by Rochester Sriracha. No, seriously, I am so sorry, but I just
this
had
one
to
might
get
have
it
been.
off my chest.
I maybe don't think you had to get it off your chest. Actually,
I actually didn't have to say that.
No, I do understand because Wicked has kind of gotten the Taylor Swift treatment where it's like being oversaturated almost.
Exactly.
And it's like, I get why people are annoyed with Taylor Swift. She's everywhere. I still love Taylor Swift, but I understand why people are annoyed with it. So I do understand that. It's
sure.
Like, and I think Wicked will always have a special place in my heart because in 5th grade, our music teacher did a theater unit, and the entire theater unit was just going over the plot of Wicked.
Oh, that's cool.
And, me being a fucking 10-year-old, closeted gay kid.
Yeah.
Oh, I died. I absolutely died. I watched it.
What a dream.
She showed us the YouTube of Idina Menzel doing Defying Gravity with Strep, and that changed like my outlook on life.
Yeah.
So I do think that like I got really into.
You said I am changed for the better.
I am changed for the better. The Wizard and I.
Yeah.
I can't come up with another pun, damn it. But no, like I do think I got into the Wicked thing before it became oversaturated. So now people who are a little bit newer into it, I do understand why people say it's oversaturated, and like I understand the criticism.
Yeah.
I just like my mind just can't even wrap around it because of how much I just love the show.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite musical because it's really good, but it is very much like, ooh, I'm gonna make a good musical.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, because I still think it should have won the Tony over Avenue Q for Best Musical that year, 2004. Yeah. But Avenue Q was more like subversive, changed the musical theater realm, did a lot more to help the genre grow rather than Wicked just showed why musicals are cool. Totally. So I do understand, like I understand why it didn't win. I'm a big fan of like SZA should have won Album of the Year because she completely changed how R&B can be heard. Whereas
100%.
Whereas who won that year? Oh, it was Taylor Swift. I actually Midnights is my favorite Taylor Swift album.
Yeah.
But it didn't do anything to change my view of her or my view of music. Where I look at R&B differently because of SZA, and I now see SZA is such a well-rounded artist because of that one album. To me, that shows that deserved Album of the Year. Whereas that's what Avenue Q did. Yeah. It showed that musical theater can be different than what we thought.
For sure.
And it deserves to win because it helped push the genre forward. So that's why I understand why it didn't win and that kind of stuff. But it's so damn catchy. I'm always gonna have a soft spot for it, I think.
Of course. And look, I don't know if I said I don't like it, or if I hated it.
I actually think you said you hated it and that you think Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth should get shot is what I heard.
Yeah, that is what I said.
So
I said what I said. I think that when I saw the stage production, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But whenever someone comes into an audition or something with a Wicked song, I'm like, ugh.
Yes, whenever, like our high school, we would do audition workshops, and every single year there'd be 3 girls that were like, we're doing Popular, and it's like, okay, like it's a great song, but like I get annoyed
that's
hearing
enough.
It. So no, that is the super valid criticism. It's been oversaturated.
Yeah.
In the market. Oh, but I'm so excited. Literally cannot wait.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, of course, I'm gonna see it. I'm sure I'll enjoy it. Maybe.
Maybe we'll see. I'm
We'll see.
Like I said, I'm hoping. I hated Cats though, so.
Oh my god!
And I walked into Cats wanting to like it.
But everyone hated Cats.
I wanted to like it though.
I didn't like the stage production though. I'm kind of like, okay, they're Cats.
I've never seen the stage production.
You don't have to. It's not that good.
There's
Sorry.
one where they do it as like queer ballroom.
That's cute.
Which to me fits Cats perfectly because it's a jellicle ball.
Yeah.
And it's a ball. So like that kind of stuff, I am interested in that. But I think that was like a limited time production. And
so
I
think, like some sort of reimagination of it is cool. Because otherwise it's like, okay, it's Cats. Mm-hmm. But one of my favorite things about Cats is in Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Did you ever watch this show?
Yes.
Okay. So in Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, when it is discovered that no one is actually cast in Cats, you just like show up and you do Cats, and they call like Greg Kinnear comes in as a guest star, and he just goes up on stage and he becomes Greg Katnier. Do you remember this?
No, but I remember Greg Kinnear. Oh, it was at the very end. Okay.
Yeah, it was at the very, very end. It was like one of the last episodes. It was so fucking funny. But like that is the vibe of that musical, is like, oh, no one auditioned for it. Like literally someone was just like, they were in the audience and they were like, I'm going to go up there and I'm going to be a cat.
Literally. And freaking Betty, not Betty Who. No. Not Betty Wolf. No. I love how I'm naming just other people who have been on
Betty's.
Broadway. No, because she's the OG girl who sang Memories.
Oh, yeah. I forget her name.
Oh, my gosh. I got invited to do her intensive when I was a senior in high school. I know. Wow. I know. I'm glad I didn't, because one of my friends did the senior in high school, and all it would be her yelling at you while you sang your song.
Oh, my God. Yeah, that might have broken you.
It would have. And I did a monologue, so she would have just yelled at me while I did a monologue, which also would have broken me.
For sure.
But that's a different story. One thing we haven't talked about with Chicago yet that we just absolutely need to is Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Babe.
Like, do we just like that point blank period? The entire movie is just, it's amazing. It's a standout. But Catherine Zeta-Jones in that movie she did change the trajectory of the world. I don't think the world spins on quite the same access it did pre-2002.
I agree.
Because of her. And
her hair, amazing. Her costumes, amazing. Everything that she does is amazing. But most of all, she so perfectly captured the feeling of like when someone is better than you, like when your moment of fame is gone. Like her entire character arc was so beautiful, and I don't think that anyone else could have done it like that.
No, like this movie, I'm so glad I picked this movie, because this movie just like in like Calvin's lore, this movie just has done so much in terms of making it.
Yeah.
When I was watching the movie every day for 3 months, I would also watch the Academy Award acceptance speeches and stuff like that. And I watched Catherine Zeta-Jones. She accepted it pregnant. And I just remember being like, there was just, I couldn't put into words, because I was, 12 and 13 at the time. So I couldn't put into words why her performance was so just immaculate, but you did. But like, she captures the feeling that we've all felt before, but she captures it so incredibly well, and in such a way that it we have to remember, part of the reason why Chicago is so cool is we're talking about these people that are horrible people, but we like them because they're so charismatic, and that's the point of the show. Is to highlight the satirical thing, like, and that's what I love so much about it, is that like they did it so well that I genuinely felt bad for Velma Kelly, who is an actual murderer, being jealous of another actual murderer. Like, but I genuinely am like, no, she deserves her time in the spotlight, and that's why by the end, we shouldn't want them to be successful, but yet that last thing, I can't accept. It's not. It's a dream, because I wanted those two girls to be happy,
right?
Even though they're horrible. Because
you were like, he did have it coming. You know what I mean?
He did have it coming, and so more lore. God, I love this. So our favorite song is "Cell Block Tango."
Of course.
In 8th grade for my musical, I had to audition with a song. It was the first audition I did with a song. I did it to "Cell Block Tango" from Chicago.
Iconic.
I said the Pop Six Squish Scissor Lipshus. Poor Jacob is just like, what the fuck are we talking about? I literally am just like, I'm getting so deep into the show.
Oh, yes.
But that part of the song, I did that part 4 times before I did the chorus. And I did this as a full on audition where I I wasn't kidding. This was not ironic.
No.
I was going to do all that jazz. My friends told me I do Cell Block Tango better. So you know what? He had it coming. I think that specific song is the reason why I hate men. I think that's the reason why I'm okay with, like, I want more female serial killers. Why aren't more men dying? Okay, maybe I shouldn't say that. But, like, maybe that's a little bleak. But I just, like, that. I really do feel like that song, like, completely changed the trajectory. And that's where Velma's talking about killing somebody. But yet the entire time I'm like, huh. Like, I'm just so intrigued with everything she has to say.
He absolutely had it coming. It's so fun how, thank you. It's so fun how they really played on, like, this actual phenomenon that I think is still very true today, but was especially true in Chicago in the 1920s. So I did a little bit of research on the origins of this show.
Yeah.
And it was based on a play that a woman had written in 1920. God, what is her name? Let me see. I want to give credit where credit is due. Oh my God, fuck. Sorry.
No, I can probably find it too.
Her name was... I'm going through all of my notes. Okay, sorry. Hold on.
No, because let me see if I can find it.
Who wrote the original play based on Chicago? Or that Chicago was based on. Okay. Maureen Dallas Watkins wrote the original play Chicago in 1926. She was a journalist who was covering the murders of these two men. And okay, sorry. Let me start over. Okay. Sorry, I'm getting too excited. Maureen Dallas Watkins was a journalist in the 1920s who was covering murder cases, these murderesses, these two specific women who Velma and Roxy are based on.
Okay.
And in the 1920s in Chicago, there was this increase in profile and I think in numbers of women who were murdering mostly their husbands and lovers.
Yeah.
And they became like celebrities. And there were, they called them sob sisters, like, Christine Baranski's character. Yep. These reporters who specifically would kind of play on this like, oh no, these women are victims type of thing. Mm-hmm. And because juries were all men at that time, these women, all they had to do was just like be really pretty and be really charming, show a little leg, and they would not get charged with murder. Yep. And that phenomenon of like the ties between fame and crime, especially like, you know, murder.
Yeah.
And I talked a lot about this on an episode that I did probably like a year and a half ago on the podcast My Favorite Murder. We like talked about how that podcast doesn't really age that well. But like
Yes, no, I feel like that podcast doesn't age well at all.
not at all. But like so even thinking about like, okay, so from 100 years ago, that was sort of like the beginnings, like I think the beginning of this like the celebrity killer. And I mean, we've seen for the past 100 years, like what kind of impact that has had on
And it's very
culture.
real. Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah, totally. And so that's one thing that I think is so cool about this movie and this musical. So then it was adapted into a musical like 40 years later.
Yeah, I would say the
like
90s
in the 60s
or the 80s.
I think 60s or 70s.
Oh my gosh, yes, no, because Cabaret happened in the 70s and it happened around the same time as Cabaret, even though it's its own thing, but they were both done by Fosse. Yes, you're right.
Yep. So then it was adapted into the musical, and then there was like a little bit of time where people were like, "Oh, this is a little bit too dark," and they didn't love it. But then a little while later, there was this like revival of it, and then it was huge. And who knows why people resonated with it more later. I mean, maybe just because people got more cynical. I don't know.
Well, because Cabaret, a lot of people compare Chicago and Cabaret, specifically if you are in the doing a school musical realm of the world, because I was a theater education major for a hot second. And there's a lot of discourse over Chicago and Cabaret because a lot of schools would do Cabaret as a musical. And I don't think Cabaret is a super school appropriate musical. I think it's a great musical to do research on. I just don't think it's a great musical to have high school students do because it doesn't have as deep of an impact when you don't get into all of the nitty gritty. And high school students shouldn't have to do 3-way number shows.
Totally.
Whereas Chicago is so much less dark than Cabaret. So whenever people, because I remember it's been forever since I heard that, but I do remember Chicago did not have a killer first round because people said it was dark, which I'm like, have you all seen Cabaret? But they didn't.
Right.
I'm like, wait, because Cabaret is really dark. But to me, Chicago is a really great way. Like I know Chicago has like sexual elements and stuff, but I think high schools could do Chicago so well because you can do a lot more with like the idea of, because Chicago deals a lot more with like the idea of femininity and the idea of like how sex sells rather than like Cabaret talks about like the grunginess of the world of the time, and you have to get into the grunginess, where Chicago's more just like, ooh, I'm pretty, which I think is important in both perspectives, and both ways of storytelling are really important and needed. But it really just highlights that like, these like pretty girls were doing like really bad things, but because they knew how to appease the men at the time, like it's a really interesting criticism of like patriarchy, but also of how we just like, it's not that we celebrate crime, we like romanticize it. And because those women were like, oh, but I didn't, like they're selling themselves. It's like about marketing, and it's just such a cool thing. I can talk about like the message of Chicago for forever because it's like so surprisingly deep.
And the fact that they also, I think they don't get so much into this notion of like, oh, it really was jazz and sex and drugs that brought her down. Like they're also making fun of this like moral right and the ways in which she's able.
What got her down.
Obviously, that's not why she killed her husband. She killed her, or not her husband, her lover, because she was a bad person, and not because she was like too into jazz. And so I thought that it was fun too that like they didn't make it seem like, oh, it was just the culture at the time. It's like so much deeper than that. I think there's something so human and dark about the fascination with murder. And there's something so human and dark about the desire to be famous and to have people talking about you, and the fear of how fleeting that is, But nothing stays, as they say.
And in the musical, well, there's also the whole like pretty privileged thing with Chicago too, where they like talked about how like there's a whole character that she's foreign and she doesn't know how to speak English, and she gets hung. Spoiler alert. Sorry. She gets hung because because the world didn't see her as sensational enough. Totally. Whereas what Roxy and Velma did was way worse, but because they could sensationalize it, and they were the really pretty girls who could sell it, or one was supposed to be the really pretty sultry one, and the other was supposed to be the really innocent, more sensual and whatever. But because they knew that they could fit into that, they knew that they could take advantage of the world. And so I also like how it's a criticism on on literally just like so much, but
Yeah.
they do it in such a fun way. And I'm a big fan of satire when it's not screaming in your face satire. And that's
Same.
what Chicago
It's gotta be subtle. And I have to have fun while I'm watching it.
Or else
I need to be
the
entertained.
point won't get across. Like now
Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit, they ate me up with that one because
Yeah.
guess who I'm obsessed with? Roxy and Velma. Well, fuck.
They prove that's the thing. They're like it's poking fun at us too.
Mm-hmm.
It's poking fun at us, the audience that's enjoying this whole performance and taking their side.
Exactly. And well, one thing, since you haven't seen the stage production, I'm really curious. Did you know that Christine Baranski's original character, is it Sally? It's not
Miss Sunshine?
Yeah, Miss Sunshine. She is actually played by a drag queen in the stage production.
Oh.
So she has her own song about talking about seeing the good in everybody and like wanting to be a good person. And she's like this operatic soprano.
Cool.
And then at the end of the show, they take off her wig and it's Man in Drag.
Wow.
Is Mary Sunshine. That's the first name. Mary. I was like, I couldn't
Got
forget.
it.
So Mary Sunshine and Christine Baranski, they did it. And I do think that was a smart move on Rob Marshall's part. I don't think the movie, as much as it's stupid, I don't think the movie in 2002 would have gotten nearly as much recognition if they put a drag queen on. That's stupid and wrong.
I think people wouldn't have gotten it. It would have been similar to the way that, like, you know, when John Travolta was in the movie adaptation of Hairspray.
Yes, because that's also one of my favorite musical movies. Yeah.
I feel like people would see it like that, where they'd be like, oh, LOL, it's a guy, I guess.
When it's actually this really beautiful musical about like how racism is really horrible and
Yeah.
how it, like, you know, like how if we like come to love each other, we can create really amazing things together. Yeah. Like we forget that the message is there because of that.
Yeah.
And Hairspray came out like 5 years after Chicago. So if that's what they did with Hairspray, they would have just done it worse with Chicago.
Yeah.
In that movie, my dad, so I had a huge Oscar phase as a kid. During my Chicago phase, I had a huge Oscar phase. And Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers was nominated for Best Picture the same year Chicago. And my dad was pissed because that's his favorite Lord of the Rings movie that it didn't win. I'm like, Return of the King winning is great and all because it won the next year. But like, I don't like, Chicago kind of changed how people look at movie musicals. It was the first movie musical in decades to win Best Picture, and now it's the most recent in decades already. Like I don't think people give that movie credit for what it did.
I think
all
you're
of
right.
those stars are like forever cemented in like pop culture. Like maybe like shamefully, I don't know if Gen Zers, because I identify as Gen Z, I don't know if Gen Zers quite know how amazing Renee Zellweger is, but all of my friends that just discovered Bridget Jones' Diary, that movie didn't age super well, but they discovered it and they're like, wait, like Renee's always been here, you guys. Like Catherine Zeta-Jones. Like I now compare all Velma Kellys to Catherine Zeta-Jones, which I know is wrong or whatever, but it's like they did such a good job of creating this world and transporting me to it that it's like it genuinely like changed like how I look at movies, and I think it changed how people can look at how movie musicals can even be done.
100%. And like every famous person has been in a production of Chicago.
Sofia Vergara was Mama Morton once.
So fun.
Isn't that like, I just love that's like such a big fun fact for me.
Yeah.
And I love how like all the different people, the guy who played Elaine's boss in Seinfeld.
Yeah.
He was Billy Flynn in the tour that I saw.
That's so fun.
And he played the part perfectly. Like it's a good enough show, and as a stage production, in my opinion, it's bare bones enough because there's not much of a set.
Totally.
It's bare bones enough to where each actor's interpretation can be really, really fun. But I've just liked every single time I see it, and when I see people's productions of it, it's just such a fun time. And I'm a big fan of like, you can have fun while sending a message.
Yes.
As much as I love Les Mis, that was my favorite musical for a while. It's just depressing as shit.
Yeah. I don't love Les Mis because I like to have fun.
It's a hard musical to have fun during. You know what? I've seen that show even more times than I've seen Chicago.
Really?
Yeah, because I've seen the touring production twice. I've seen the movie multiple times. I've seen the orchestra movie multiple times with Nick Jonas. And all productions except for like 2 have made me cry.
Wow.
I saw a high school production where they did it all in like normal attire.
Wow.
So they had Fontaine singing I Dreamed a Dream in ripped jeans.
Whoa.
Not cute.
Whoa.
I'm so mean. They had someone doing like a ballet number during her thing. That pissed me off. The song alone.
High schoolers are so stupid.
Well, it was their director.
It wasn't their fault.
I've seen I'm so mean. Get me on a production where I'm really passionate about it, and if they do one thing wrong, I will talk about it for years.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Okay.
What do you think of the movie adaptation of A Chorus Line?
I never saw it because I've heard bad things about it, and I'm scared to see it.
You absolutely should. Everyone else who says that it's bad is wrong. Trust
Really?
me.
Okay.
Listen to me. And if
I
I'm
bought
wrong,
it on DVD and I haven't watched it yet because I've heard bad things. Like
Okay.
it literally made me scared.
I love it.
Okay.
I think that it's fantastic. And I talked about it on the pod several months ago with another theater kid, an adult, but of course a theater kid, who also thought it was really good. And the two of us basically were just like, here's why everyone else is wrong. So
Interesting. Okay. Because I love Chorus Line as a musical. Absolutely adore it.
It's amazing. So yeah, you should.
Do you know the Chorus Line dance? That dun no.
Not like currently. Like I couldn't get up and do it right now.
We had to learn it in my jazz class, and I was a dance minor in college, and I just remember and we did it my junior year of college. It was actually the last show my school did before COVID. Like because we had the shutdown mid-March. Their their production was the first weekend of March, so they were literally the last production my school did before we had to shut down from COVID. And like older people, like because we had a lot of older professors at my school at the time, they would all be like, "Well, when you see the original production, no version of it can do it justice." And I get that it's because the original production was based off those actors, but then it like makes people not excited about what's a really good musical and a musical that criticizes the world of musical theater. That's like a really toxic world. So maybe I should watch the movie because I do. I actually really love that. Yeah, I do love that show. I think it's a really really beautiful and important show.
It is. It's beautiful.
Amazing. That's so cool. I love that.
Okay, there's let me see if there's anything else that we like. I mean, there's obviously so much that we could talk out.
No, like literally, I was saying we haven't even talked about the fact that me and my friends used to have the cell block tango so memorized that each one of us would take turns being a different girl.
Amazing.
My friend always wanted to be Pop, and I didn't always want to be Squish, which is the one who killed the guy because she found out he was Mormon and she put arsenic in his drink that she used to make every night. God, the way that oh
my God,
I'm gonna go do a workout after this, and the soundtrack will just be on. Mr. Cellophane is one of my favorite songs from that musical.
Oh, and John C. Reilly is so good.
He deserves his Oscar nomination for that. So that's one of my dream parts.
Is amazing.
I sang back then when I was a singer. I sang Mr. Cellophane for a music competition, and I like plateaued as a singer because of that song because that song has a high G, and I needed to hit that for the song. And once I hit that note and could hit it consistently, I like felt so accomplished.
You were like, I don't have to do anything else.
And then my lack of confidence, I was like, I don't know what else I can do if I can hit this note. But I just, that's still to this day one of my dream characters. Yeah. I did a scholarship audition as a senior in high school, and during my scholarship callback, they asked me what my dream part is. I said Amos Hart in Chicago. They had me sing Mr. Cellophane there a cappella. It was bad. Oh. It was bad. No, like I did one little part and then they didn't ask for any more. And the girl before me.
They said, just like Roxy at the end of the movie when she's auditioning, they said, that's enough.
No, they literally said, that's great. They're like, let's talk about your passion a little bit more. And the girl before me, they let her do her entire song. Because you can hear in the back. So I still got the scholarship. I don't give a fuck. But I'm not the best singer in the world. Like that, like I do get my voice teacher was correct when he said I was not the best in the world. He kind of ate with that one. Voice teachers, but let me get that right too. But so now I can sing Mr. Cellophane and that makes me feel good because that is like my favorite song in the entire show.
I mean, that's the reason I know what cellophane is. Same. I didn't know what cellophane was.
I did so many auditions for that. I've gotten criticized I've actually gotten really good criticisms on my interpretation of that song. Really? I feel like when I performed it, I interpreted it quite well. Yeah. And then the directors that would see it would be like, I didn't get that. I'm like, okay, cool. So that choice didn't read. That's such a valid response. So maybe the outside world doesn't love how I act out is Amos Hart, but I enjoy it.
But you enjoy it, and therefore someone should give you that part.
The part where John C. Reilly is like talking about killing the guy, and then Renee Zellweger singing about how much she loves her husband and then she hates him. I'm like, come on, you guys, like this show.
Dummy hubby of mine, like that.
Love it. Yes, that dummy crummy hubby. And then Renee Zellweger did not know how to sing before this movie, and she's Roxy fucking Hart. That is so cool.
It's incredible.
I love this show so much.
Okay, let's see. Oh, there is. Okay, one part. It is so small. There's one part. Remember it already. There's one part that I think doesn't age great, and it's when it's a song I Can't Do It Alone.
Yep. She goes,
and I go. Okay, so there's this part where Catherine Zeta-Jones' character Velma is doing kind of this like
the Egyptian,
and then she's doing kind of like she has like sort of one of these, and that I was like, oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, it's hard because it's in the music. Like it is like written in the music to have like there's like a complete different key change for that part of the dancing, and so it's like one of those things where it's like, because you're right, it doesn't age super well, but it's like, what else would you do instead? Like just as a choreographer, you would have to think of like a different choreography for that part.
Exactly. So I blame that like not on the choreography, or like not on the choreographer, but just kind of on like the going way back to the 60s or 70s. I mean, look, Fosse, we love you. And
he's a problematic guy.
But he's problematic.
He's very problematic. Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, it's really like, it's not something that I like get hung up on. I'm not like, oh my God, wow. Like, I'm not clutching my pearls, but I was like, oh, that's too bad. In a movie that like otherwise I think ages
incredibly
perfectly
well.
That is like really one of the only criticisms that I have. And Richard Gere wasn't that good, but he wasn't like horrible.
It's hard because it's like, I feel like pre-Les Mis, the Richard Gere thing is like, yeah, he was the weakest in the cast. Fuck him. But then after I saw fucking Russell Crowe, I'm like,
yeah,
ugh.
You're like, it could have been a lot
worse.
Or
Idris Elba in Cats. Like, come on, we need to stop. Like stunt casting. I've never been a fan of stunt casting.
Yeah,
I think true theater kids aren't, because we understand how much work it takes to be a true triple threat and how few people actually can do it.
Yeah.
That when I see someone try it and fail, I'm like, I knew you were going to.
Yeah.
I am fan of some stunt casting. Sometimes I'm a big fan of it, but most of the time I'm not. And I feel like Russell Crowe is a great reason why. Whereas like, at least I do think Richard Gere probably had a good voice teacher, but he couldn't do it again.
Right.
Yeah, which is like, Renee obviously could do it again. Catherine Zeta-Jones fucking won the Oscar. Queen Latifah. Like, they really had such a good... Christine Baranski has done Mamma Mia. Like, she's...
Oh, yeah.
Like, everybody has kind of cemented themselves in a musical way except for him, which is very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think that he's just kind of a pretty face.
Who would you cast in that part instead?
What a question.
Because, like, in terms of, like, slimy lawyer...
Yeah.
Who does it better than Richard Gere? I mean, Pretty Woman. You know, like he does like the slimy
he does
corporate
the slimy guy. Like, but really you kind of love him too.
Yep.
You're like, oh, I want him to represent me when I murder someone and get famous.
Yeah. But the way when I first watched that show, I was like, murder. No. Jazz. Literally, I ran around my entire house screaming Chicago. And that's not even in the musical.
It's not. It's
Chicago,
just,
but I just love it.
But just
so much.
something that you had to get out, you know? Okay, let's see. Oh, Roxy is, I keep going back and forth in this movie of thinking that she is so smart and so stupid. You know, like in the beginning, I think that she is so
incredibly stupid, yeah.
But by the end, when she fainted and said, I hope that it doesn't hurt the baby, I said, actually, this woman's a genius. You know what I mean?
I think she's very pigeon is that pigeonholed, or it's like where you really focus your thing on that one thing and you're good at that one thing but you're not really good at anything else. She said, I'm going to be famous. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm
focused.
She's very singularly focused. And again, that's really a testament to how good Renee Zellweger acts the part and how well Kander and Ebb like wrote the part. That like someone's able to, in every production I've seen, like that Roxy is able to like come off as really stupid in the beginning, but then you're like, during the song Roxy, you're able to be like, wait, she kind of has a plan.
Right. You're like, oh, she's a mastermind.
She just is only a mastermind about how to get famous. Yeah. Now that she saw how it didn't work for Velma, how it didn't work for the Hungarian girl, she's like seeing how it didn't work. She's just very singularly focused, which is kind of so interesting that like Velma's someone who already has the fame, but is really smart, but not like it's really fun to see how those characters are, where like Amos Hart is stupid. I love him. He's one of my dream parts. He's a dumb man.
And that's why we love him. That's why I love him. I'm like, he's just a dumb, nice guy.
Yeah.
Just a doormat, a little pushover. I like that about him.
Me too. Yeah. It's really, really sweet. The live production I saw, their Amos Hart was also on the older side. So they had an incredibly young Roxy.
Interesting.
Velma was the next oldest, and at least by look, she looked about 10 years older. Okay. And then Mama and Amos were old.
Interesting.
And I liked how Amos was old. He had like a mustache, and I loved how old he was, because it made you feel bad for him. But then there was also this whole idea of like, why are you married to such a young girl? Right. I don't know. It just kind of created like a cute little, not cute, but like a fun little dynamic even there. That's like, oh, because he was just this guy that's like, but then how many guys do we know that are like, I'm just such a sweet guy who's just such a victim, and then they're like actually pranks. I don't know. Like, I just think it's even fun to explore that relationship where you can have it be the John C. Reilly where he's just a lovable motherfucker. Yeah. Or you can have it be like, he's this really old guy who married a really young girl and is mad that she's not happy with him. It's like, like, I don't know. Okay. I just think it's cool that like, and it just is a testament to how well the show is written.
Exactly. Yeah. That there are so many, I think, different interpretations, but the messages and the real, like, you could say razzle dazzle of the show is it remains no matter what.
And the fact that the song Razzle Dazzle, literally, there's also a Starbucks Frappuccino called the Razzle Dazzle, if you were curious. It was $7 for a grande in like 2016. So that does tell me it's probably like $15 now. But
Absolutely.
there is one and it's good. But like even that whole number, like the entire point is to be like, we're going to hypnotize you into falling in love with the production. That's what the number is. Like, it's just literally, the way I could write essays for this damn show and just be like, the opening number, all that jazz. I learned the Broadway choreography for it as a high schooler. That's what I taught so as a senior in this class I had in high school, we had to like teach Broadway choreography. And I was like, well, my favorite musical, Chicago. So I'm going to do that. So I taught a bunch of 14-year-olds the original Broadway like choreography to all that jazz, which is very sexual. I'm like a 17-year-old being like, okay, and hit and slap. I'm like, hit the hips and slap your thighs, bitches.
Oh my God,
I'm like telling this to like 14-year-olds who are like getting ready to take their driver's permit test.
But you were also a child, so it's okay.
I was also a child, and I learned it as a child. We had an extremely flamboyant man when I first learned it at ThesCon. Shout out Colorado Thespians, you know what I'm talking about. And we would have like dance classes there. And this guy was like, you had to like make out with yourself and you had to like go, and then the shooting happens. And he's like telling all these 14-year-olds to like get in with it. And I'm like, I know he's obviously not like a creep or anything. I just think it's so funny because it's like being accurate to the show. But you really are just being like, you gotta like feel it. And it's like, these kids are so awkward.
You must keep the integrity of the show.
And honestly, which is why I think Chicago is a better show to do, because the sex stuff in Cabaret is so much more upfront, where it's like Chicago, it's like, ooh, be sexy. It's really easy to just be like, ooh, and like kind of get that point across, where it's like, just for the other one. So he like, it's so much fun. I just love, and to this day, when I am on my way to the gym after this, I'm going to listen to all that jazz and I'm going to do the choreography.
You're going to start the car.
Oh my gosh, for college, holy shit, wow, all these lore things. For college and my choreography class, we had our final was to create like a choreographed performance, and because I'm a comedian at heart, I did a girl was hungover to a dance class, so I did not have a single ounce of choreo. I had choreo. I did not have a single ounce of dialogue, but the choreo was there was a warm up song, and then I taught them the original Broadway choreography. Wow, I really milked this for what it's worth.
Wow, you really did.
I taught my two girls the original choreography to Chicago. They did it, and then at the end of it, one of them pukes. And everybody was like, "Oh, it's so much fun!" And it's like, my teacher was like, "You did a great sketch, Calvin.
Yeah,
was
a
choreographed dance performance."
You're like,
I'm like, it was because there was no dialogue. And I did that on purpose so that you couldn't tell me to sketch. But no, it's just like, that show just literally, I was like, well, if I have nothing else in my life, I have the original Broadway choreography to all that jazz.
And that is true, and you will forever have that.
I will forever have. Make yourself feel sexy.
Yeah. Got to keep the integrity of the show. Okay. I do think that we need to say razzle dazzle more. Okay. That's something that I think we do need to bring back. I think just as a general catchphrase, I think that we need to bring the razzle dazzle. We need to be saying that more. Not only do we need to bring more razzle dazzle and razzle dazzle them, I think we need to say it more.
I agree with that. 100%.
That's what I say.
We can agree with this.
I thought one thing that Richard Gere did really well was the tap dance. I thought he was good at tapping. And I didn't expect that.
And tap dance is really hard.
Yeah.
Really, really hard. It was surprising.
Yeah.
It had me curious, like, does he have dance experience? Like, vocally, I'm like, he could have told me he sang in a previous life and I would have fully believed him, because his vocals were not horrible.
Not horrible.
It's just, it's not even like Pierce Brosnan in the Mamma Mia movie. That's another good example of just like piss poor casting. Totally. The man is not a singer. He's likable. We could have gotten a million other men just as likable as him who could sing. At least Richard Gere can hold a tune.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's just like, but you're right. There's something about him that just doesn't fit quite as well as every other lead. And maybe that's just the part of it. Like, they hit gold with every single lead they had.
They did.
That, like, maybe they were just going to make one not perfect decision. They made just one good decision.
It's true.
How can we control that?
Look, no one's perfect.
Exactly. No one's perfect. Seriously, very few movies have 10 out of 10 for every single lead.
Yeah. Sorry.
So what? They had 10 out of 10 and once. What would you give him? I'd give him a 7 out of 10.
I'd give him a 6 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but still in the upper half, right? Like, still. And so it's just like, but everybody else just being at the top of their game, like, it's hard to compete with too.
That's true.
They all gave their razzle dazzle.
They did. One part that I think unfortunately does age well is that the Hungarian woman who got the death penalty, it was in part because the DA wanted to become governor. And I think that is so, the connection between like capital punishment and political capital is so still like tied together.
Yeah.
The way in which, like, I think even just in general in like, in like a court system, the way in which like people just use other humans' lives as a chess piece to like get what they want. Whether that is, Velma and Roxy using the fact that they murdered people to become famous and exploiting the audience, the jury, who they call the audience, which I also loved when that happened, or whether it's the DA who requires more political capital and wants to become governor, and therefore he orders the woman who doesn't even speak English to be hung, or whether it's like, somebody who only wants money and doesn't care about anything else, like Richard Gere's character.
Or even Mama Morton. I mean, her entire song is about like, if you pay me, I'll pay you.
Yeah.
Like her entire song, like her entire character is like, oh, I only do things for money.
Yeah. And so all of this is like literally just about like how we exploit people.
Which again, just proves how good the show is, because it's all so true to this day.
Yes.
I mean, how many times do we talk about, I mean, half the reasons why, Stan Kamala, but like half the reasons why Kamala gets criticism from like the liberal progressive side is because she was a cop and was a DA.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's because there's like power grabs there, and because we have such a corrupt system, it's like anyone who gets power in the system, like, what did you have to do? And I think that's like a really interesting thing, that like the DA, that's like common knowledge to me, and that's sad. That's not good, that like, of course you want to get power when you get power when you kill people off in the prison system. Like the fact that like hearing that when you said that didn't faze me at all kind of shows how bad it is that fact that I'm like, oh yeah, of course, like I've been seeing that in TV and in media since I was a child, that's what people do. Well, then that means it's what people like it, but it's such a good call out, because again, the show is so glitz and glamour that like people don't always get the message, but they always receive it, but they don't always understand, like, no, like this is nothing has changed. That's the whole point of the show, is the fact that like you could put us in the 20s and like Ted Bundy, women were obsessed with him because he was pretty. He literally murdered how many countless women?
Yeah.
Like what? Or I actually just finished an audiobook on Israel Keys, who's like a very prolific 21st century serial killer. It's called To Catch an American Predator. Highly recommend.
Okay.
They were talking about how the DA of Alaska almost ruined the entirety of that case and made it to where they almost got nothing from Israel Keys because of his own pride wanting to do that. And like they have an entire chapter dedicated to that man, and how if he didn't do the shithead stuff he did out of his own pride and wanting power, how they probably could have gotten some more information out of him, how they probably would have been able to take advantage of him better. But because of people's pride, this Israel guy killed so many people that we don't even know. We will never know, because he died before we could get more information because of people wanting power. It's just crazy that like it shows that our justice system is very flawed and very, it's just all it does is highlight that. And this show just does it in a really fun way. I'm a big fan of a message coming out in a fun way.
Totally. Because when you watch this movie, nobody is thinking about like, oh, well, that's not how a courtroom works. No one's thinking that. This is a fun musical.
Exactly.
No one's like, oh, well, that's not really what they do. It's like, we're all just here for the show.
Yep.
But we still walk away with a message.
And that's chef's kiss for me. I love that kind of stuff, because like as much as I love Les Mis, it really is one of my faves. You like walk out being like, God damn, man.
Yeah.
Human beings, I mean, we really only have each other. We ain't got nothing else. Like just stuff like that. I'm like, it's bleak, and it's still an important message and needs to be said. But I just love it if you can get a message across without being sad.
Yeah.
That's a really important message people need to hear. That's really impressive.
Or to be able to balance that sadness with razzle dazzle. Like the scene in which the Hungarian woman dies
bleak
is so fucking dark. And I think that we needed that, because like we did need a little bit of darkness in this story about murder, but it's balanced out by the rest of the show. You know what I mean?
1000%. And that's why, again, I think Chicago to me is almost like the perfect musical to introduce people to musicals. Some people might say it's Wicked. I'd actually say it's Chicago.
Oh yeah.
Because Absolutely. Chicago, like Wicked's a good example of like, here's what makes musicals great. You need good music. You need good character. Like it's a good example of like, here are the building pieces for a good musical, where Chicago, I think, is like, if you've never seen a musical before, let me show you Chicago. If you don't mess around with Chicago, you might not be a musical guy. But I really do think Chicago is kind of like a perfect introductory musical to people, because like Cabaret also leans into the razzle dazzle. but it gets really bleaked by the end. But that's the whole purpose of the musical is that it's supposed to be like a ch, because that's what it was like for people not watching, I did like a big roller coaster thing to kind of show that's what it was like to be in Nazi Germany at that time. It went from being one of the most progressive places on the planet to one of the most like oppressive places on the planet in what felt like for them overnight, but what we saw was the course of a few years,
right?
aka America. It's like what we're trying to avoid. But like after seeing that, that's the whole point of that musical. But it needed the razzle dazzle, but then the end's still super bleak. But then the razzle dazzle has a completely different point of it. I'm trying to think of other musicals that like do, but then there are other musicals like Mamma Mia. That's like the message is like love others.
Right. The message is like, have fun.
Yeah, the message is like, have fun and know your parents love you. Or something like that. Like, it's a really cheesy message, but then I think, the musical itself is still really good. I feel like Chicago does what Disney movies do, where they get a relatively really good message across in a really digestible way. Yeah. But they just do it in a darker format because, Disney movies don't have musicals about murder. But I do think that's why I think I'm a Disney guy. Oh. I'm not like too much into Disney, but the messages in the movies. I'm like, shit, I watch Little Mermaid and I'm like, damn, I get the message. I watch Beauty and the Beast, I get the message. And it's like, it's just really easy to digest. That's what Chicago did, just with more adult themes.
Exactly.
And I love that.
I watched this when I was way too young to have been watching this. Like watching it back now, it's so funny because it's like, wow, I can't believe that I got away with watching this.
See, my parents were like, you're watching, I told them I watched it and they were like, oh, okay. And I just loved it. And I didn't catch up on all the nuances of it. Yeah. But I felt like did you get enough of them? Like, did you still get that?
Yeah. I still like I understood what was going on. Like I think, God, so I was probably 8.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you were young. Holy shit.
I was young. Because this came out in 2002. So I was probably 8 or 9 when I watched this. So I like knew what sex was, or at least I thought I knew kind of in general what it was. And, but like, other than there like wasn't that much that really went over my head, but I think that because of the razzle dazzle, I was mostly just like soaking up the story and like having fun and like the dancing and all of that. But it is so funny now looking back and be like, I can't believe my parents let me watch this. Yeah,
Yep. There were definitely times rewatching it this week where I was like, oh, like. Oh. Yeah, from the adult perspective, I get it right away. Whereas a kid, it took me 5 times watching it to be like, for sure. Because I watched it as a 12-year-old and I never watched straight porn. So like as a 12-year-old, I think that was probably the first time I discovered like people have sex on phones. Yeah. Because I was gay, I still think some of the baby stuff I was like, yeah. Because it took me an embarrassing long amount of time to figure out like how, because I knew sex was made to make a baby, but I didn't get like the nuances of sex that are needed to create a baby. So at the time I was like, yeah, I know that like there's vibes here, but and because of just like my perspective, I didn't get the whole baby making aspect of it. So that like mini subplot, the first couple times I watched it,
little confusing.
Yeah, it didn't go over my head, but there were times where I was like, okay, this is like an adult thing. And now like watching it as an adult, I'm like, oh, well, Calvin, okay, this is you just needed like you just needed to watch a few more things of straight porn to get that. I tell my parents I'm doing like a podcast on like my favorite movie musical, and I'm like, so the porn I watched. So the porn. I'm like, so let's go back to that. No, but like I do just think like me as a 12-year-old, I definitely get what you mean, where it's like I got the plot and stuff, but there were lots of little things that totally went above my head. Because I was friends with all girls. No 12-year-old girls are out here talking about their slut lives. Now that I'm a man in my 20s, all my girlfriends talk about is their slut lives. So now I understand like their perspective of sex a lot more, which helps me understand like Roxy's whole perspective on sex and the whole baby thing. So I do think that like there are parts of it that are definitely but because it ages so well, hey kids listening, watch it once as an 8-year-old, watch it once again as a 10-year-old, watch it every 2 years, and every 2 years you'll find new things to love about it.
Exactly.
That's what I did. Literally rewatching it on Tuesday, I was like, God, I just forgot. Like I was like the costumes. I forgot how good the costumes were in that movie. It didn't win one of the 6 Academy Awards. It did not win for it did not win for costumes.
Shocking.
Just nominated.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
I think that they probably were like, okay, Chicago, you've had enough. Maybe.
I don't know because the truly the costumes in that movie are like top tier. I mean, every single costume and every single number, I'm like, this was the costume that was meant to be. Like, that requires an intense amount. For me, people don't understand musical costumes are difficult because you have to have something that like is comfortable enough for them to sing and dance in, but also has to be really showy. That's a really big ask. Huge ask. And so the fact that they did it and made it look as effortless as they did, chef's kiss for me.
Chef's kiss. And also, I think that it's just so everyone loves a period piece. Everyone loves a period piece, and they love period clothing. And, you know, I think they knocked it out of the park.
They really, God. Not me. I'm probably going to watch it again this week. Talking about it, I know. Oh my God, I'm like really in the vibes. I'm probably going to watch it again this week too.
Probably gonna.
2 times in a week.
Sorry. Sorry to all the horror movies that we were going to watch this week, but probably aren't now because we're going to watch Chicago again.
And again.
Okay, well, we're creeping up on the 1.5 hour mark. We ought to do our final segment of the podcast, which is, I'm actually going to grab my Sriracha real quick.
I love your Sriracha.
Oh my God.
Sriracha. I love this.
Thank you. Sriracha, it actually is really good. You should bring a bottle home with you because it's really tasty.
No, I'm totally down.
Do you like spicy food?
I used to drink hot sauce as a kid until heartburn made me stop. So yes, I love spicy food. Oh my
God. Wow. That's incredible. First of all, I think that you're so metal for that, honestly.
That's the most metal thing about me. That I can tell you right now. That and the fact that I like ethyl cane. Those are the only 2 things metal about me. Everything else is incredibly. I just got the Taylor Swift Midnights. What's it? This shirt?
Jacket?
No, but it's not a jacket. It's a cardigan. I literally just got the Taylor Swift Midnights cardigan limited. Like, I'm not metal. You know what I mean? No, both things can exist. But
yeah, you contain multitudes.
I'm metal in 2 aspects of my life, and I'll take it.
Absolutely. Duh, we all gotta have a little edge. Okay, so this is Cancel or Callback, a little segment that I think could be a little bit spicy, that we take a trend from the past, and we discuss if it should be canceled forever or if it needs to be called back.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Do you watch any of the Real Housewives franchises?
I know of them, but I do not watch them. My roommate's a big fan. I have a hard time because they are so dramatic.
Yeah. It is kind of the whole thing.
I know it is like kind of the whole point, but I love them all in like their individual like realms.
Of course. Okay, well then I think that you will be able to speak on this because it is not only relevant to the Real Housewives, but I think to many. So on the Real Housewives, in all the franchises, they cannot help but have a 1920s party. For everything. If there's a theme, it's going to be 1920s.
Yep.
And they're going to do it again and again and again.
Yep.
And this is not really a trend from the past even because it's something that's still, I think that we can expect. We can just expect it to continue. But I do think obviously dressing up like it's the 1920s, you know, that's an old trend we're bringing back. So I want to know if you think that we should cancel or call back, aka keep, throwing 1920s themed parties every year for everything.
Okay, it's hard because as a theater kid, I've been invited to so many 1920s themed things.
Of course.
So many. And it does get really annoying really quickly. It does, because it really does become the same theme. But it's such an easy theme to not fuck up.
It's so true.
That I think I'm unfortunately going to have to say it's a callback for me.
Yeah.
Because you're right, Real Housewives do it, but almost any show that has a party theme in any way, shape, or form, there's going to be one that's 1920s. It's a theater kid thing.
Yeah.
Hell, I'm positive Dude IDK, the amazing studio where we were filming at here, I'm positive they're going to have a 1920s party at some point. It's something, it's almost a rite of passage that 1920s parties. The amount of murder mystery 1920 parties I went to in high school where we all were given characters.
Yeah.
My friend who was a slut at the time, well, she wasn't a slut. She was just, the only girl in high school having sex.
Sure, for sure.
Which, it's...
Of course.
My friend literally made her name Mrs. Glasscock. Like, they literally, made her name. Like, they only gave her the slutty name. And then my other friend... Because it was this girl. This is so funny. God, wow. So I was invited to a 1920s theme murder mystery.
Yeah.
The girl hosting it had a huge crush on me. I was in the closet.
Oh.
So her and I, we were in different books, truly. And she was my first kiss. And at this time, she was my first kiss. So that had already happened. She liked me. I was confused why I just could not grasp the fact that I didn't like her.
Yeah,
so I was trying. Hannah, if you're listening, I tried so hard to like you. You have such a hot boyfriend right now that you deserve that. But I tried so hard to like your ass. Yeah. I'm now attracted to men that look like you, if it helps.
Wow, that's amazing.
No, literally though, but. So we were all given our characters, and the 3 of us were like a friend group. There was 4 of us that were a friend group, and all 4 of us were when it was 2 guys and 2 girls. The one girl was Glasscock or whatever her last name was like the really.
That's so funny.
No, her name was Miss Cocktail. And so I'd call her Miss Cocktail.
God.
So she was there. Then my friend, this is so complicated, but the friend who was hosting the party was the girl who liked me. Yeah. Her best friend liked my best friend, who's also a gay man, but we were both in the closet at the time.
For sure.
So we both were like, our characters were assigned to be dating them. I know, and I'm like, this is so cheesy because this is high school, but both of our characters were assigned to be dating them, and we were both like, because we both didn't know why we didn't like these girls, but we were, and then the 4th girl was invited as she was there too. She just didn't have like a fun lore moment. She didn't have the fact that she was a slut or a gay man into it. I was killed. I was the one who was killed during the thing, but I had to act out so hardcore, and I had to like have an accent and dress up, and I'm like, what are we doing? But yet it was also kind of fun. So I do just think with my lore of that, I have to give it a call back.
You have to give it a call back. So if you were invited to a 1920s, let's say even a murder mystery party, would you go?
Yes. Would I dress up super hardcore for it? Probably not.
Yeah.
I've never been that person.
Yeah.
I've always been very DIY with my costumes.
Sure.
So if I do a costume that's very DIY, it's going to be a good idea. So I'll wear like some stuff, but I won't go full out, but I will go to the party.
Okay, yeah.
And I will act it out.
You're gonna work with maybe pieces that you already have, maybe buy one new thing, but you're not gonna go out and buy a full
it's a callback, but it's a callback due to the fact that I think it's almost a rite of passage everyone should be forced to go through once.
Okay, great.
A 1920s themed murder mystery party. I know you didn't have the murder mystery theme party in there, but I'm adding it back in.
No, but it is so, no matter what is going on, the murder mystery of it, like any 1920s party is so murder mystery coded. You know what I mean?
No, like literally. And I had 2 friends who did it. One was the one I just said. The other one is actually currently a drag queen in Colorado right now. Wow. They're such a fun performer. I know, like 2 performers ended up, what a surprise that we ended up doing it. But they did it, and theirs was really fun too. And they did it for a party. They invited their family. They, for some reason, had like their aunt be like my lover, and I'm like 15.
Oh, ew.
And she was like, "Hello, mister," and I'm like, "Hello, Mrs." Like, God, like how gross.
Oh, that's
and I'm like,
so
I wonder
gross.
if that adult woman looks back and cringe. Obviously, it wasn't real, but I do wonder if she looks back and she's like, God.
But she probably knew this is a young gay man
who is like really down to be in character. Like, unfortunately, like she was just correct.
He is going to be so committed to the bit.
And I was so committed to the bit. If I was told I had to kiss her, I would have. Full length,
anything for
full
the role.
Anything
for the role.
I'm an actor at first.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts though? Is it a callback or is it a cancel for you?
This is tough because I think that first of all, we need to leave it in the past for the Real Housewives.
Yes.
Come up with a new idea. And this is not a criticism on any Real Housewife. This is a criticism on the part of the producers.
Yes.
As a producer, it is your job to come up with a better idea for a party than 1920s. We've seen it again and again and again, not just across the franchises, but within the same franchises. We see it again and again. I think there are so many opportunities to be creative here. Mm-hmm. And I think that it is, frankly, lazy choice to do another 1920s party for Real Housewives. However, do I think that we should stop having 1920s themed parties altogether? No, I don't.
Okay.
I agree that it is a rite of passage, and also it is it's a costume party that you don't have to explain to people.
Yes,
people
that's great.
Typically know what the assignment is. Whereas I think that when you start getting into other decade themed parties, it gets a little bit murky. You know, I think that some people, they confuse what is the 60s and what is the 70s.
What is the 70s
80s
versus the 70s? Yep.
Yeah. And I think that people get confused about, I don't know, like there's just so much opportunity for people to be embarrassed if they don't get the theme. And 1920s, we kind of all know what we're supposed to wear. So that's my hot take.
And also, I think that was really clever. That was cute.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I also think that flapper dresses look good on everybody.
They are great for basically every body type.
That's what I was supposed to say. Yeah. Like as a woman, you'll definitely have a better perspective of this than me. But like, I genuinely have never seen a flapper dress not look good on a girl before.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. The only thing that can be tough is if the 1920s dress is long. That's when it gets tough for short queen like me. But if it's just, I think in general that style looks good on pretty much every body type.
And I'm a big fan of fringe, and that's very 20s. So it's hard because it's like everybody looks good in 1920s get up. Like, even guys, like as much as I hate dressing up, God, I've never seen a man look shitty in a 1920s suit. It might look really on period and really not in a modern day sense, but I never see people look bad. And so I'm like, damn, in terms of a party theme, it's a really good one to just like have a safe choice that everyone will feel confident with.
Totally.
Which is also important. But you're right, Real Housewives, like the job of the producers is to make shit not boring, and it's a rule of 3. It's like comedy. Absolutely. You can have 3 1920s parties, but then that's it. Move on to the 80s. Move on. Literally do different decades. That could be really fun, and that could help the layman, the everyday people, be like, oh, that's like, 70s, I know that's what 80s. To do. Yeah. Yes. And then we could all just have better decades parties in general.
Absolutely. And also, like, if we aren't seeing as many 1920s parties on Real Housewives, then okay, you know what it is? We are oversaturated with 1920s parties.
Yes, it's oversaturation.
It's Wicked, it's Taylor Swift, it's 1920s parties. Leave us a little bit to be desired. You know what I mean?
True art leaves you wanting more. I stand by this
100%.
And so it's like, that's what I liked so much about, and obviously Taylor Swift fans would disagree with me on this one, but that's what I liked so much about her kind of taking a little bit longer in between albums is like, I wanted to be like kind of sick of one. So I was like, what was right before? I was sick of Evermore by the time Midnight's came out, where I was like, I feel like Evermore is good, whereas Midnight's versus Torture Poets Department, I feel like was a little quick. I didn't have enough time to get sick of Midnight's.
Yeah.
So I wasn't looking for something new. And when you look for that something new, it really, I think it's a really positive. Yeah. Like it really helps you as in art and as an artist. So I do think those 3 things need to go down. It's hard because Wicked, like whatever, they're in marketing for the movie right now.
Yeah.
So I get it, but you're right, just like a little bit less, and I think people would be even that more excited for it.
I think so too. So if you're thinking about throwing a 1920s party, maybe like give us a little time. Maybe make us miss it a little bit more as a party.
Give it 6 months.
Yeah.
Have the same exact party, give it 6 months, and I bet you have like not even something decades, or do like, because to me it's like 20s and 80s are probably the 2 easiest, but I feel like 80s really pours into 90s and 70s a lot.
Totally.
So I would say do 80s or 20s, but do 80s for right now. Go for the neon.
Yeah.
And we'll be okay for 6 months.
We will. I agree. Calvin, thank you so much for coming.
This was literally so much fun. Thank you so much for having me.
So much fun. We have just been yapping.
You've been talking shit. I love it.
I love it. Is there anything else you want to leave the listeners with?
I'm trying to think. Yeah, my Instagram. I'm going to say it one more time. Calvin Reid, REID_. Post all of my stuff there. The acting class should be coming back for registration soon, and just come support your local comedy shows.
Yes. Come to Dude IDK. Come around.
The great shows here. I'm an idiot. I run a show at the camera. I run a show here at the studio. It's a really good show. It's called Send Dudes. It's a really fun queer and drag comedy show. Highly recommend.
Yeah.
Our next show is November 22nd, which is actually the same day the Wicked movie comes out. So we will be having it Wicked themed.
Oh my God.
Our drag queen, I already talked to her. She has some Wicked stuff. So we are. I love how I'm like, we need to take a break with Wicked. Not for this show. For this show, I'm taking back everything I said.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yes, come 11/22, and then our other show is 12/19, I believe.
Okay, cool.
But I can confirm that later. So yes, come to Send Dudes here at Dude IDK. It's an amazing, super fun show.
Yay! Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming. This was a blast.
This was so much fun. Thanks for having me.
So much fun. Okay, we'll see you next time.
Amazing. Bye.
Bye.